This is an excerpt from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie. It's a very popular book in the secular world, and this is a true story from 1931. Quote, on May 7th, 1931, the most sensational manhunt New York City had ever known had come to its climax. After weeks of search, Two Gun Crowley, the killer, the gunman who didn't smoke or drink, was at bay, trapped in his sweetheart's apartment on West End Avenue. 150 policemen and detectives laid siege to his top-floor hideaway. They chopped holes in the roof. They tried to smoke out Crowley, the cop killer, with tear gas. Then they mounted their machine guns on surrounding buildings, and for more than an hour one of New York's fine residential areas reverberated with the crack of pistol fire and the rat-a-tat-tat of machine guns. Crowley, crouching behind an overstuffed chair, fired incessantly at the police. 10,000 excited people watched the battle. Nothing like it had ever been seen before on the sidewalks of New York. When Crowley was captured, Police Commissioner E.P. Maroney declared that the two-gun desperado was one of the most dangerous criminals ever encountered in the history of New York. Quote, he will kill, said the commissioner, at the drop of a feather. But how did Two Gun Crowley regard himself? We know because while the police were firing into his apartment, he wrote a letter addressed, quote, to whom it may concern. And as he wrote, the blood flowing from his wounds left a crimson trail on the paper. In his letter, Crowley said, quote, under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm. A short time before this, Crowley had been having a necking party with his girlfriend on a country road out on Long Island. Suddenly a policeman walked up to the car and said, let me see your license. Without saying a word, Crowley drew his gun and cut the policeman down with a shower of lead. As the dying officer fell, Crowley leaped out of the car, grabbed the officer's revolver, and fired another bullet into the prostrate body. And that was the killer who said, quote, under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm. Crowley was sentenced to the electric chair. When he arrived at the death house in Sing Sing, did he say, quote, this is what I get for killing people? No. He said, quote, this is what I get for defending myself. The point of the story is this. Two Gun Crowley didn't blame himself for anything. Is that an unusual attitude among criminals? If you think so, listen to this. Quote, I have spent the best years of my life giving people the lighter pleasures, helping them have a good time, and all I get is abuse, the existence of a hunted man. That's Al Capone speaking. Yes, America's most notorious public enemy, the most sinister gang leader who ever shot up Chicago. Capone didn't condemn himself. He actually regarded himself as a public benefactor, an unappreciated and misunderstood benefactor, and so did Dutch Schultz before he crumpled up under gangster bullets in Newark. Dutch Schultz, one of New York's most notorious rats, said in a paper interview that he was a public benefactor, and he believed it. I have had some interesting correspondence with Louis Laws, who was warden of New York's infamous Sing Sing prison for many years, on this subject, and he declared that, quote, few of the criminals in Sing Sing regard themselves as bad men. They are just as human as you and I, so they rationalize, they explain, they can tell you why they had to crack a safe, or to be quick on the trigger finger. Most of them attempt by a form of reasoning, fallacious or logical, to justify their antisocial acts, even to themselves, consequently, stoutly maintaining that they should never have been imprisoned at all. If Al Capone, Two Gun Crowley, Dutch Schultz, and the desperate men and women behind prison walls don't blame themselves for anything, what about the people with whom you and I come into contact with? That's the end of the excerpt from How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So you see, through pride, a man can justify all actions. Do you think that Hillary and Nancy Pelosi think that they are bad people? Not hardly. They think that they are defending truth, that they are liberating women, that they are liberating even an overpopulated world, even that we need them. This is without any doubt how they think. The point is that basically no one thinks of themselves as bad people. Everyone believes that they are in the right, no matter how evil they are. Martin Luther, for instance, he believed that there is no way that he could be saved under the commandments of Christ. So he got rid of the commandments, because obviously if they do not justify Martin Luther, then they are not relevant. Now the goal, of course, for modernism is to get rid of supernatural faith, to get rid of truth, so that they can make up their own truth. In order for this to happen, they need to convince people that they don't need a Messiah, that they are already good people, that they can achieve salvation however they would like. Obviously, modernists hate dogma, and they hate pronouncements against heretics and schismatics, because this involves supernatural faith and defined truth. However, there is of course this problem. of the Catholic Church, which effectively stands in the way of modernism. So the modernists have this theory going under the cloak of baptism of desire. But this only accounts for pagans, Muslims, Jews, atheists, and other people who are not baptized. What about all those heretics and schismatics, those people who have been baptized? Well, if you are going to have a doctrine of universal salvation, if you are to no longer regard heresy and schism as evil, then we of course need to justify them too. This is where invincible ignorance comes in. According to invincible ignorance, you just need to believe that you are a good person, and you will be saved. You just need to act in accord with your conscience, just like Two Gun Crowley. A Buddhist is allowed to have abortions. A Muslim is allowed to mow down the infidels, and the atheist is allowed to blaspheme. There. Now it is complete. The modernists have universal salvation for all men without Christ. All they needed to accomplish this were two new doctrines with old names, which are invincible ignorance and baptism of desire.